Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So I thought I would create a card and just take my time in creating the piece. Sometimes I love just to enjoy the process and just enjoy creating because I love creating. So what I'm going to do is I looked at my stamps and I thought it's about time I used this one, which is Leaf is Better. So I want to use that one. It's an A7 stamp set, but it's so beautiful. It's a lovely stamp set. So let's just take this off the acetate. And you can see how beautiful that is, whether it's standalone like this or whether you use it as a whole background. I'm going to place mine onto an acrylic block. There we go. And then I'm going to add some stamping so that it's sort of a background. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to use grey. I was thinking of using black, but I think with it going in the background, I will use the grey, which is Morning Mist Versafine Clair. I'm going to ink the whole stamp up with the ink. And then I'm just going to create sort of a random background. So let's start with this one, almost all of it there. And I'm going to use this as a background element. And I do find having some of these A7 stamps sort of with so much beautiful detail on, you can use them as a background or a focal image. I find them really, really useful. And also you can use them and break the bits and pieces up. So swap your stamping around a little bit so that it looks a little bit different. Don't stamp it all so it looks the same. Stamp it so the background is going to appear different. Sort of move your stamp around. And if, like me, you're not really sure where you're going to stamp, I'm just inking the whole stamp at the moment. So let's just add that there. And I often talk to myself as well, which is, not a good sign, but I do it. Life is better in the garden, that text says at the bottom. And for me, that's very appropriate. So what I'm going to do now is, let's add another one there. And I love just enjoying the process of creating, which is the fun part really, especially when it turns out and it comes out really, really nicely. I love how I've got ink on my finger because I was creating a snippet, so I've actually got ink on my finger. So then we want to stamp those pieces there. I always ink more of the stamp than I really need to. Just make sure you're using the correct ink. It's so easy to pick up the wrong ink pad when you're engrossed in creating. And then let's ink that up again. Just add a few more details there. So what you've done now is you've extended an A7 stamp into something that has created a beautiful background, which is what I love, because if you can only afford an A7 stamp, it can create the main image, the focal image. It's brilliant. Right, so what I'm going to do is get my circular template, and I want to grab this bit here. And just so that you know what size circle, let me see which one I'm going to use. Am I going to use that one? Yeah, I think I will. So that size circle is about 3.5 inches. You can use a smaller circle if you wish. Right. So I'm just going to, and it's up to you where you add this circle. Now I want to add a little bit of a floral element. So what I do is I sort of move my piece around just to see where I want to add it. I think it's going to be there. Because what I'm thinking then is I can add the floral just here. So let's draw around the circle. And I'm using a micron pen just to draw around my template. Doesn't matter what you draw around. So I've used a permanent ink pad. So because it's permanent, it means I can use water with that if I wish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my clean colour real brush pens. And I've got light green and deep green. Now these have been around for a long, long time. I mean, when I had my shop, I think that was nearly 14 years ago, and we were using them then. So they've been around a while. But I like to use what I've got in my collection. So we're going to use these. So what I'm going to do is, let's turn it round and make this the bottom. I'm just going to add, now the tip on these is beautifully soft. And the ink lays down beautifully, so it's not scratchy, it just lays down really beautifully. So this is light green 041, and what I'm going to do is just, now they are reactive with water, you can blend them out with water, you can touch one pen onto another pen to create a blend. It's entirely up to you. And then what I'm going to do is just really, I was going to add the dark green first, because I'm going to add the dark green now. It doesn't really matter, but I was going to add the dark green first, which I should have done. So just add that darker green. Let me just, because you know I've added that light green there and there was no need at the bottom. So this is the deep green and it is 044. So when you're doing it, add the deeper green first. And then you can blend that out with the lighter green. You can get rid of the lines with the lighter green. Just blend it out. There we go. And then you can blend the whole thing, preferably with no other colour on your brush. You need to make sure you have a good quality card. If you haven't got a good quality card, what will happen is you'll just, you know, you will work the card too much and it will sort of pill and you'll get this sort of bits of fibres. So don't work the card too much. Just blend that out. You can also, if you wish, you can add the colour just to your non-stick craft sheet. Pick that up and you can blend more colour also. Bristol Smooth is also a beautiful card for these kinds of pens as well. So it's entirely up to you which way that you do it, but you can sort of build up a little bit more layer of colour. If we just turn it round, the darker areas you can see. So continue just building that colour up just a little bit more. And what you can see is, you can see that I'm not working that area too much. I'm not going over and over it and soaking the brush so that I work the card too much. You don't want to do that. There we go. So that just sort of makes our background look a little bit different. Right, so let's take the stamp again. Let's grab a piece of white card. And what I'm going to do is use the stamp again, but this time I'm going to stamp in black. So you just have to make sure you do pick up the right ink pads. Ask me how I know. So I'm just going to ink the stamp up with my Nocturne black ink. Make sure we are using just white card. So use that white card. And then this time I'm actually going to just cut out the leaf as a whole. Lift that, you can lift your acrylic block and lever that, just so that you get a lovely, beautiful image. And this time, let's pick it up. Let's colour first and then we can cut it out. So I'm then going to colour with the dark. So with my deep green 044. So I'm just going to add the deep green just around the edges. Just to give that depth of colour. And just so easy to actually put down onto the cardstock. It's just very easy. So what I can do then is I can just blend, I can go into the darker green and simply blend the colour, which just works beautifully. Just to blend out those lines. And then again, I can add a little bit of that colour. And then just blend it out, just with a little bit of water. And I'm using sort of a wash of the same colour, just to blend that out. I do like simple methods for colouring, nothing too complicated. And I think that's why I like these pens and the Ecolines, because they just work so beautifully, especially if you can see the card. But in its own right, you could put like a little sentiment here, and that could be a little note card or the inner of your card. So let's just cut this out. And it's not about rushing. You know, the longer videos, you can always pause them and come back to them another time. Especially if you haven't got the available free time. It's just... And I'm just leaving a little white border just to make everything pop. And whilst I'm doing this, it's allowing the card to rest. I don't want to try and put touches of white on there when I've got a soaking wet card, because it won't achieve anything. You need to let it dry a little bit. And just moving my card rather than my scissors. just to cut that out. Very easy image to cut out. No problem at all. And I do love to sometimes use greens because they're so fresh. And those of you that garden know that green goes with every colour because it does in the garden. Especially if, like me, you've got a lawn. And the green lawn sets off the whole garden. Right. So it's sort of now just building up my composition, just deciding. I will decide where it's going once I have, you know, you can even line them up in your project if you want. So if you've done a project and you've got the leaf on, you can line it up so that it lines up with wherever you've added your leaves, but I don't want to do that, but just to give you different ideas. So what I want to do now is I want to take a floral. So let's just move this for the moment. Don't think we need it again, do we? We don't, nobody knows. I might need it again actually, because we can cut the half butterflies out as well. Right, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take the good, which is this little A7 stamp set here. It's stamp set 986. Again, another beautiful A7 stamp set. Just works so well. So I'm going to use a bigger acrylic block than I need. And I'm going to stamp that in the black because I want it to appear in the foreground. I am actually going to cut the flower out that I want. So this, whilst I'm doing this, the other card that I've inked and coloured in the green is resting. It's drying a little bit and I'm not going to work it too hard then. I'm not going to overwork the card. So shall we colour first? What have we got? So we've got pink and dark pink. So pink is 025 and dark pink is 027. Again, my clean colour brush pens. So I'm going to add the colour. And I'm sort of going to flick that colour. And then so this is the dark pink. Just to add. So that just gives me my dark colour. And then I'm going to go in with the light pink. And just remove sort of the line of the dark pink. So I've removed the line of the dark pink, and then when I've got a line of the light pink, I just create sort of a wash of the light pink. We don't want that green on there that we had before. So I pick up a wash of the light pink and then I go in and get rid of the line of the pink with a wash. So I don't need 3 pens. I can just blend that out with a sort of a wash of the colour. There we go. Don't know why I didn't do the other little floral while I was there. Nobody knows. Let me make sure you can see me doing that. So just using the dark pink. Then I shall go back in with the lighter, just to blend out those lines. And then just pick up with a wash of the pink and just blend that out. There we go. So I'm going to cut the floral out, and you can use the circles as an embellishment if you wish. So let's just cut the floral out. We'll just get rid of some of the excess card, so I'm not working with too much card. And I think the sort of pinky tones will go beautifully with our green, our fresh greens. Again, just leaving a white border. And again, I won't add those touches of white just until it's just had time to rest. Just go around. The little touches of white just make your whole project pop. There we go. Just cut our floral out. Just again, leaving a little touch of a white border. Sometimes if you find it a little bit difficult to cut out, leaving a white border actually makes it a little bit easier. There we go. Just got an itch. And just turn that round. Do you know what's going through my mind now when I said I've got a little itch? It's the film, the James Bond film, Casino Royale. So I've got that film in my head then. So let's just cut that out. I know I am very random and very bizarre when I waffle. I talk about random things. Just cut our floral out. There we go. And what we can see is how our floral just works with the leaf. It just, a little pop of colour just works beautifully. And it's like you've sort of got three, like a cluster here, which works quite nicely, which is what I'm going to use. So let's see if we can add any touches of white. Just make sure that pen is working. So I just test it on I can test it on a piece of white card because I can see what I'm doing. So that's going to go here. So just add in a few touches of white where we're going to see it. And I will lift it off here 150 times just to get it right. Just to add some little touches of white. I'll just add some little dots to there. So I'm liking the composition so far. So I can add some dimension because this is a card and I like adding dimension. So let's just get rid of that. So I'm going to add some dimension to my leaf because I wrap them in tissue or I put them in or I make a box. So let me just add that there. And this comes down. Let's move it up a little bit. One advantage of using an adhesive that moves, it's very handy. There we go. And then we just want to make sure that bottom sticks down. So I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive just there. And let's just push this up. While Tracy faffs with this a little bit. And then I'm just going to which you should do before you put the adhesive on. But then I decide these things after I've done something, so that's me all over. So I'm just pinching the petals just a little bit. There we go. So just pinching the petals a little bit. And as the card dries more, I sort of go in and add a little bit more of the white to sort of reinstate the white, just to make sure you can definitely see it. So it's worth just reinstating that. This is what we've got so far. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go back to the A7 stamp set. And I don't want that one. Yeah, that one. So I just want this butterfly here, and I want that in the black. So let's take that. So we just add our butterfly. And it's great because I can just use it then as half a butterfly. Really, if you can, I nearly picked a piece of paper up then that showed a stamp I'm not supposed to show. Right. Let's just grab a piece of card or copy of paper. And what we can do is just give that a little bit of a blot. It's okay. And then I'm just going to go in and let's just cut our little butterfly out, or half a butterfly. So you've got elements here that you can use individually. You don't have to use them as a whole. It's entirely up to you how you use them. So just cutting out my butterfly. Let's just actually, because of the way it fits into the leaf, I'm going to cut it right to the edge. Just looks a little bit tidy. There we go. Let's cut around there. That's it. So I've got my butterfly. And what you can see me doing now is just getting rid of the white areas I actually left in. There we go. So then what I'm going to do is take the green again. So I'll take the dark green. Just add dark green. And then blend that out with your light green. They do blend out rather lovely. Then just take a wash of the colour, making sure that your brush is clean because you've just used pink afterwards. And it's funny because the pink's a lot stronger. Right, so let's pick up that green and then we can just wash that out. There we go. And really we want to add some white to that. So So I'm just going to bend the leaf a little bit. Now this is where you push your luck, because you've got something that is wet and you're expecting to add touches of white. So let's bring this in. So I'm going to add the sort of butterfly just tucked in there. There we go. Sort of tuck the little butterfly in. There we go. Again, just go in, reinstate the white just as it's drying, just so that you can see our composition. So here, if we look at the A7 stamp set, let me just stamp it out in black. So on the same A7 stamp set, the leaf is better on that one. If we take the black, and I'll just put my fingers straight on it. I'm not using an acrylic block. Just don't press too hard. When you've got a fine sentiment, you don't need to press too hard. I'll hold this up for you so that you can see. But sometimes you want a little touch of something that's not too overpowering. I'll just cut this out so you can see. And it says, amongst the leaves. And we can add this sentiment and keep it in white and decide where we want to put it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive just at one end. I'm just going to add just there, just so that it sticks up a bit, making it a little bit more prominent. We'll just lift this up just so you can see it says amongst the leaves. I'm then going to add a little bit of shading, which you can use your brush pens to add the shading if you wish. I'm using my Inktense pencil. It's a little bit darker. And again, you need to make sure that you've cleaned out the green from your brush. Take off the excess and then just touch the grey Inktense pencil. Just touch it with a little bit of the water. If it hasn't quite got enough power, just bring in a little bit water to the pencil. Not much, because you don't want to ruin those pencils. Just so that it's got a little, that's better. Just blend that out. Just so it's got a little touch of shading just underneath there. So I'm going to take my white pen and I'm just going to add a little bit of white here, just so. Just so you can see what we've got so far. I'm then going to add that to a black mat, because then in this case the black mat, it really pops. So let's add that to the black mat. Again, always be aware, I'm adhering something that where all the elements haven't stuck down. You would make sure that all your elements are fully dry before trying to stick down, because that's when the elements will just fall off, and you don't really want that. So just making sure the left hand side is okay. I can just, so the actual card that I worked on was 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches, and it's Pink Frog smooth card, and the black mat is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And then I'm going to add that to a card blank that's 5.5 by 7.5, just so I've got a little bit of a wider border. Just to make that pop a little bit more. So I've got a little bit of a wider border. Just adding it to my card, just so that border's a little bit wider. And it's lovely and fresh, that is. Really lovely and fresh. And sometimes you need to look at something and decide when it's enough. You know, sometimes I like adding my little birds and things, but you have to know when it's enough. And for me, there's enough elements on there. It's telling a story, it's strong enough, it doesn't need any more elements. The only thing I'm going to do is add some Posca pen. Just try and make sure that you miss your sentiment. That is always a good thing. There we go. Let's clean our area. There we go. And we will just lift this up so that you can see all the elements just in there. Just so that you can see that. Just absolutely love it. I adore stamps, I really do. So many possibilities. It really is. Just so that you can see that. So I hope you've enjoyed that video, and I'll see you all soon. Love to all. Bye for now.